You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we've found a space bug in FAB Facts.
It's all change in the Randomiser.
And it's part 2 of our interview with Lloyd Scott.
Oh, the fundraiser. That's all coming up in Pod 254.
Oh, the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Give all you can. Give all you can. Spare you can.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Can you spare any change, though?
Well, yes, welcome along to the Gerry Anderson wax cylinder. Where you went all weirdly Victorian there.
Can I spare any change, Governor?
Please, sir, could I have some more podcasts? Yes. No, I can't spare any change, sorry.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
All right.
Well, this is the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Welcome along.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell are you?
What, me? Well, you'd think you'd know by now. I'm Richard N. James.
You are indeed. And I'm Jamie L. Anderson. I don't often call out the L.
No, you don't.
And very much later, possibly, we'll be joined by Christopher R. Dale.
Oh, to give him his full title. Well, actually, that's not his... Yes, not his full title, is it?
What is it?
Well, it's His Holiness Randomiser, surely.
Pope Randomiser III, yes. Anyway, he's called that because he hosts the Randomiser, which has got its very own podcast. So if you're already bored of Richard and my witterings,
probably,
then yes, then you should head over to the Gerry Anderson Randomiser podcast, where you can hear the Randomiser episodes from a year ago. That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. They're a year behind this one.
Yes, I see. Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, it means you don't have to listen to us. But if you do want to listen to us, then we're here with all sorts of stuff between now and the Randomiser. And those things consist of the following carefully bullet-pointed elements.
Oh, wow, bullet pointed. It's like a presentation. Okay,
if you could start up the PowerPoint, please.
Elaine, could we have the first slide, please? Okay, as you can see here, I've divided this out into a pie chart, so you can see the relative lengths of each section.
Lovely colours, too.
Yeah, so in this very vivid green here, we have FAB Facts coming up in just a moment, which you can see is a very small proportion of the total enjoyment of the podcast. Okay, Elaine, second slide, please.
Interesting that you did that with the intensity of colour for enjoyment, but inverse to the enjoyment, so yeah.
Now we have, this particular Venn diagram shows the intersection between the podcast and interesting things, and that in the middle there you can see is the Gerry Anderson News, highlighted in red.
Nice.
So that'll be coming up a little bit later. Elaine, the next one. And this is the second part of our interview. The first part of which you probably heard last week from Lloyd Scott, wonderful fundraiser and marathon runner. So you can see I've done this as a sort of a graph of building excitement throughout the interview. We start quite high, of course, because you would have heard the last one last week, the last part. And that level of excitement continues throughout the entire interview.
Most impressive.
And Elaine, the next slide. And here we can see the Randomiser, which I've chosen to illustrate as a word cloud. So we have there's Joe 90 there, very small. Space Precinct, very big letters here. So we're obviously hoping for an episode of Space Precinct. But also things like exciting, amazing, explosions, meddings, marina. It's all in that word cloud. So that really, for me, sums up the experience of listening to Chris Dale's Randomiser later in the podcast. And finally, Elaine, here's the final slide. And here we can see a population graph of our Podsterons and how much they are going to contribute throughout the episode. That's right. So we'll have some. You can see their emails over here. It's quite a large circle. We've also got some tweets and some Facebook messages as well, which you can also see in these colours here. So that concludes the presentation. Any questions?
I think that was pretty comprehensive.
Thank you
and
very
I think
much.
we all want to get home now, don't we?
I do, yes, especially Elaine. Yes.
I know, poor Elaine.
Yes, well done.
Where did you pull her from?
She was just walking past. I grabbed her.
Poor Elaine.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't even like Gerry Anderson stuff. Well, that was most peculiar, wasn't it?
There you go. It was odd, but there we are. We're known for it, aren't we, really?
What, being peculiar? Apparently so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do best.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Podsterons, for attending this briefing. Sadly, was not brief enough. But I can help move things along because I can take us directly into a Fab Fact.
Okay, let's just junk that slide, Elaine. Yeah.
No, here we are. We're going to the Fab Fact.
No, blanket.
Cue the whooshing noise.
Ooh, someone has door open.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Yes, it's Fab Fact, where I've got a book of Fab Facts, and I fably flick through the facts with my Fab Fact thumb, which is often clammy, and Richard shouts Fab, and I stop flicking.
Great.
Yeah, and there's a Fab Fact on it, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Right, are you ready?
Yeah, born ready.
Good, here we go. Ooh.
Fab! There's a bit of a slip there.
There was a double slip. The cover flipped, and then I did a huge chunk, and then another little chunk. But that's brought us all the way to the 1990s.
Oh, I remember it well.
I feel like you were there.
Oh, it was. That's true, yes.
So, and actually, this is most appropriate. So, Richard James, you'll be very pleased to know that this Fab Fact concerns Space Precinct.
Well, I don't like to talk about it that much, but go on.
Don't worry, you won't have to. Because, in fact, it begins...
I'm happy to.
No,
but really...
please.
Oh.
It begins with model maker Bill Pearson, the late Bill Pearson.
Yep.
If you've seen Space Precinct, which I'm sure lots of you have.
Yes.
And in particular, hopefully you've seen the episode that we put up for free, in high definition, no less, on YouTube, no less, Body and Soul, no less.
Great. The one I'm not in, no less.
A bit awkward. Anyway, you may have noticed a peculiar car-like spaceship driven by the Brogan family.
Yeah, wonderful.
And that car-like spaceship bears a rather uncanny resemblance to a classic Volkswagen Beetle. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I've noticed that, yes.
Well, that's because the so-called Hopper, this particular green vehicle, actually was a Volkswagen Beetle.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Well, it's easy for you to say, yes, that's right. But
I was there.
This is a surprise to some
people.
I
see. Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, you might assume that they bought an old car and tried to make it look spaceship-like and then made a miniature to match the live-action scale one and then called it a day. But the origin actually runs a little bit deeper. In fact, Bill Pearson remembered suggesting in an early meeting that Brogan might have been a bit of more of an interesting character if he had a hobby outside of work. Something like, I don't know, say, restoring classic cars? So in Bill's pitch to the team, he mentioned a Volkswagen Beetle, and apparently, Dad latched onto it.
I like that.
So instead of being the family car, it was very nearly Brogan's weekend project that he would have been working on in the background.
Oh, that's a nice little bit of character sort of definition, isn't it?
It would have been really nice, but ended up instead being, weird green Hopper, which doesn't really look that space car.
And was never given any sort of explanation as to why it was that particular design. Yes.
No, exactly.
So rather incongruous.
Yeah, I would quite have liked it. It was his one he brought from
absolutely
at great expense to the family, and
that's right.
Meant that his poor wife had to leave something crucial behind. And would have been a source of domestic friction.
Yeah, more domestic friction. Yeah,
more domestic friction. It might have broken down.
Yeah,
maybe Zill might have weed on the back seat at some point.
Almost certainly. Lots of bonding scenes between Brogan and his children as they tinker with the engine.
Exactly.
Get their hands dirty and all that kind of thing.
Imagine the fun they could have had, but instead. Yeah, as you say, just an incongruous green beetle in space. Anyway, Anderfans, Podsterons, any favourite hobbies of your favourite Anderson characters from the Anderverse that you are aware of? Do you think they could be real or imagined? I mean, obviously I'm rather a fan of the fact that Virgil was such a keen pianist, painter and cocktail maker.
Because that's so like you, isn't it?
Well, I mean...
Yeah, it is.
I drew a picture of a dog yesterday, and I've got the piano behind me.
There you go.
See,
there it is.
I mean, it's broken and tuneless, much like me. But do you think perhaps Scott Tracy might make model buses from old wine crates and paint them? Perhaps Troy Tempest was a crochet expert.
Could have been. Maybe
crocheting a beanie for Marina. Yeah. Do let us know your favourite Anderson character and their proposed hobby by emailing us podcast@GerryAnderson.com.
Well, because even Officer Orin, of course, had his. He enjoyed tending to his plants. I remember.
Was it plants? And he went into an exercise phase?
He did, yeah, just for the one episode. Yeah, no, John Glenn, I think in episode, well, it would have been the first one broadcast, Protect and Survive, had Orin squirting some water at a little plant on his desk. And then in a later episode, we thought it might be rather nice to have that back again to show that there was a little bit of a continuity. So in a later John Glenn episode, we had the plant back.
And that was all John just saying, wouldn't it be nice?
Well, he was very good at trying to find kind of little linking sort of leitmotifs for each character. So we had Carson and his, Shakespeare, which is a bit ridiculous, but things like that, things that you could link between episodes, because of course there wasn't a series arc as such. Every episode was standalone with sort of a big reset button at the end of each story. So it was John's idea to have, Took's teddy bear as well in the cruiser and things like that.
See, that's great.
Just to link each story together very loosely.
I would almost say those facts are almost fabber than the Beetle facts, but almost.
Really?
Almost.
Well.
It's the first time for anything, eh?
Yes.
After 250-odd podcasts,
yeah,
Richard James finally delivers his very own minor Fab Facts.
Yeah, very minor.
Anyway, yeah, there you go. Interesting stuff. We'd love to know your thoughts. Email us podcast at GerryAnderson.com. But for now, that is the very end of this week's Beetle Fact. Oh, come on.
God,
Beetle Hopper was the same, wasn't it?
No, I think we were both okay there. We just didn't synchronise properly. But that's Hopper, Beetle. Fair enough. Now, talking of Space Precinct.
Do we have to?
Well, we do very rarely, I know, particularly me. But yes, you have mentioned that it's been released in full, glorious, upscaled HD, and doesn't it look lovely?
It
looks
does.
amazing. And yes, you could see it on BritBox and shortly, I believe, ITVX. Is that right, Jamie?
It's on ITVX Premium right now. I'm sure at some point they will window it onto ITVX, which is the ad-supported version.
I see. Well, lots of people have been watching and rather enjoying it, I'm delighted to say, and tweeting about it. For example, Lil Rockstar tweeted, I remember having the toy flying patrol cruiser from this. I loved it. Well, I've still got one. The Magnificent Midnight tweeted, wow, I remember this. I loved it. Joseph, well, he's a big fan, says, let's just say I transferred to another precinct.
Nice.
We all know that. User 8727590149017.
Catchy name! It was already catchy before the last 5 digits, and then it really lifted it, didn't it?
So if I remember right, the Cyborg episode introduced me to the idea of time travel and was the first time I'd ever seen the whole main cast die.
Yes!
Spoilers.
I do love that story. It's such a good one.
It's fun. Tony Davey tweeted, loved this show as a kid, had the cop car, and a few of the action figures. Classic ain't the word. And just a couple more Matt Lund. I've still got my Space Precinct Pogs and pillowcase.
Pogs.
Awesome show, so underrated. And finally, Samuel Fields 207 tweeted, this was a fun show.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Would you believe it? I've got an email I can share with you as well.
Please do.
It's from a Mr. Steve Begg.
Right,
I'm not sure if that's a name you're familiar with.
It is, yes.
I think he may have had some involvement with the show.
He may have done.
Anyway, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, I just thought I'd drop you a line to say how impressive I think the upscaling of Space Precinct is. It almost looks like 35mm, even though it was shot on 16, so even more impressive.
Yeah.
He just said, some of the flaws are a bit more apparent, but overall I think it lifts the whole show up. It's action-packed, and Shackelford gives it his all, and I hope it gives the show a new lease of life.
Yeah.
So there you go. Isn't that nice? There you go.
Really nice.
Steve, who works on the show, and Steve is, a real expert in the world of effects.
Sure.
I mean, one of the top people in the world, and he's always very critical of his own work. Yeah. So the fact that he's kind of been able to enjoy it in HD is a really good sign. So again, thank you to the team at ITV Content Services who did the upgrade, the upscale. I think it looks really lovely.
It really does. You say you were paraphrasing from Steve Begg's email there. Were you paraphrasing to leave all the swear words out?
There were no swears. No. I was just removing some stuff actually where he was being a bit self-critical, which I don't think is necessary because it looks great. There's some amazing model work in there and some fantastic performances from all sorts of people, including some aliens wearing prosthetic masks.
Yeah, just one or two. But I have to say, his point about Ted Shackelford really is very valid. It's very easy to dismiss.
Didn't he?
He really did.
Yeah.
And, I know as the series went on, I don't think It was the happiest time for him. There were no great dramas that I'm aware of by any means. But, he was away from home and, perhaps things weren't going as well as he might have hoped and so on. Yeah. But, every scene, he absolutely gives his all. He plays it all. Yeah. From the action sequences to the cheesy family stuff to the comedy.
Yeah.
It's very good.
I mean, I was watching Body and Soul and all that, the stuff with Matt, the father-son stuff, is really, it's really lovely. It's, I would say that the dialogue isn't the best in there,
sure.
But he's really doing what he can with it, and I think actually that then it's Nick Klein, isn't it, who played Matt?
Yes.
Nick is kind of feeding off it actually.
Yeah.
Whereas because some of it's kind of quite subtle father-son moments.
Yeah.
I've always loved Space Precinct, but this has given me a brand new appreciation for it, and I hope it's done the same for lots of you too, Podsterons.
Yes. Well, I think it has, so that's nice to hear. Now, do you want to hear some emails, or should we have a little bit of news first?
Ooh, I think let's build up the anticipation for the emails, because they're always interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And instead, let's have some Gerry Anderson news.
Oh, which is also always interesting.
Can't guarantee it, but here's some potentially interesting Gerry Anderson news.
Here's hoping.
Potentially interesting Gerry Anderson news. Oh, you went Trevor McDonald there, did you?
I did a bit, yes.
Interesting. Well, Richard James, I know you're a huge fan of cycling and going to the gym, so this is going to be news for you. Just play along.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Huub, our lovely friends at Huub, the cycling company, have just released a wonderful new range of Captain Scarlet Spectrum cycling tops and tech tops. Tech tops are kind of breathable fabric t-shirts for exercising in. They're rather cool. They're nice and subtle. Perfect if you need something to wear under your scarlet or green or blue tunic, perhaps. Or just to head down the gym and or go out for a run or a walk or whatever.
Wow, okay.
Just as a reminder, Podsterons, the cycling tops are extremely tight-fitting.
Okay.
So if you're not into cycling gear, they may not be for you.
I see.
The tech tops are a bit more of a sort of sporty t-shirt fit.
I see.
And
they're not sort of casual wear like t-shirts.
I think the tech tops could be casual wear,
great.
But they are, specifically breathable fabric and all that.
Nice.
So yeah, they are rather nice indeed. So from the worlds of Spectrum to diving under the sea with Stingray Terrafake.
Oh yeah.
This was released originally as part of Network's Blu-ray set, and is now available for download from bigfinish.com. And it's a rather nice one. It's a great fun story by Nick Briggs with our full cast, with Jules DeYoung in particular doing a really lovely Atlanta. I do love her
wonderful.
Atlanta so much. It's so nice. But yes, you could download it for a few quid from bigfinish.com, and it was written and recorded in honour of the late John Taylor, who died while it was being written. So you will hear in there a character called Director Taylor, who is our little kind of nod to John, who with Gene did all the sound effects for those early Super Mario Nation shows. Right. And so many of those sounds which you'll know and think are kind of iconic, the injector tubes, Stingray's Rape Master spinning up, all that stuff was down to John and Gene. So nice that we could kind of memorialise John in that way.
Great.
Now, Richard, have you been to GerryAnderson.com recently?
Do you know, I was there just only this morning.
What were you doing there?
Well, you've redecorated.
Do you like it?
I like it.
Ah, thank goodness. Yes, there's a brand new GerryAnderson.com. It just looks rather pretty, to be quite honest. Now, It's an evolving beast. We're doing some brand new stuff, doing some really lovely show pages so you can find everything you could possibly need, including where to watch each show.
Oh, great.
Those pages will be evolving over time, so do keep checking back in. And we would love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you spot something that's broken, which is quite possible because when you update a website which is so enormous like ours, I mean, I think our website takes up about 14 gigabytes of space, which for a website is quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the days when Dad had a computer which had a 25 megabyte hard drive, so...
Yeah.
We're some way off there. But if you do spot a broken link or something which you think needs updating, then please email us at support@gerryanderson.com. We will be ever so grateful for that. Now, I mentioned in previous weeks that we're moving warehouse. That is happening right now, like literally now.
There
People are moving things.
Yeah,
boxes are going. Yeah.
Take up a chair.
Be very, very careful. That does mean that there might be some very minor disruption to service, so please bear with us. It also means that because we're moving our USA warehouse, that we have a USA clearance sale going on. So if you are in the United States, you can pop along to GerryAnderson.store and you will find a range of vast reductions. So if you've been holding off waiting to get something from there, grab it now. Those reductions will not last after our move, which is just in a couple of weeks' time, really, it'll be complete. So go and grab that. And finally, Farewell Friday. We've been saying goodbye. Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, because you get to wave at some t-shirts.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, so we are, as part of our clearance, moving on from a few old designs of t-shirts and hoodies and stuff. So we'll be saying goodbye to another 10 designs this Friday. They will be available until the end of Sunday, and then they will be gone forever. There you go. So all sorts of stuff, from cycling to the undersea adventures to new websites, all sorts of other bits and pieces. It's all very exciting in the worlds of Gerry Anderson, and there's more to come.
Of course.
And lots of stuff we can't talk about. So that brings us extremely clunkily, and hopefully post-excitedly, to the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Only the bits we can talk about. News.
Yes.
Now, can I just say before we go on?
No.
You're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Isn't it fun?
Oh, is that...
It's my Mark Silk
Mark
impression.
Silk. Nice.
Now, because
Nice.
we do have lots of listeners, and they tell us how much they enjoy listening to us, and sometimes they even email us with their thoughts, comments, reviews, sometimes, to podcast@GerryAnderson.com, and sometimes I read them out.
Now, Richard, just before you move on, I think
Yeah.
it's really important, because I know some people will want to email us, but they might not know how to do that.
Oh, right,
Do you want to give them a couple of bullet points? Because you did so well with Elaine earlier on.
Okay, well, Elaine, could we have the email presentation slide pack, please? That's it, okay. Right. First slide then, please, Elaine. Sorry, just dim the lights in the room. There we are. Can you see that now? Yeah. So here we have, well, it's a great, it's a bit of a clip art, actually, of someone sitting at a computer. And you can see what they're doing there, ladies and gentlemen, is they're taking their fingers. Slide to Elaine. So here we see it in close-up. They're taking their fingers and they are placing them, if you will, positioning them, pressing down with them onto the keyboard to type a message into their email client. Slide 3, Elaine, which you can see on the screen there. So it's very easy to do. If you want copies of this, I do have a hard copy. So just email to podcast@... Oh, that doesn't work, though, because you may not know how to email.
Complete the presentation so they know what to do.
Sure. Okay, so then you write, slide 4, Elaine, write the body of the email, whatever you want to say to us. Brilliant. And then slide 5, here you can see a close-up. Slide 5, Elaine. Go back.
Elaine.
Right, there we are. There you can see is the address bar where they've written podcast@GerryAnderson.com. And finally, slide 6, there we are, hitting the send button.
Amazing.
Okay?
Amazing. So subject lines are optional, are they?
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay. Yeah, they are. They are, actually. Good. You may get little prompts saying, are you sure you want to send this without a subject line?
And that's fine, say yes.
Yeah, just say yes. Okay, so if you do want that in hard copy, do email podcast@GerryAnderson.com and I will send you a slide pack in hard copy.
We should just say,
I won't.
Terms and conditions apply, he actually won't. Brilliant.
Right, are we all happy now? Can I read some emails out?
Everyone's turned off now, so it's just you and me left. But
you did ask, it was your idea.
I know, I'll never say anything again. Please just read the emails.
Keith Thomas has written in to say, hello all, a very happy Gerry Anderson Day to you and us all. Yes. Well, we haven't mentioned that, but...
it was 10 days ago now.
I know, yes. I will still be reading out some tweets that I saw on the day a little later on. As always, says Keith, however, I'm loving the pod and its contents, and an unfortunate bout of illness has provided me with the opportunity to catch up on some downloads. I must genuinely thank you for keeping me company as I walk my way back to fitness. The Gerry Anderson Podcast is one of just 3 I subscribe to, and it's my absolute undoubted favourite, with the Randomiser in second place.
Oh dear, Chris will be very grumpy about that.
Yeah. He also says apologies to Mike Brewer in number 3.
Oh.
Mike I'm not familiar with that particular podcast. I wonder what that's about. I was listening this morning, says Keith, and the subject of final episodes came up again. Now, some many moons ago, you discussed this, and it inspired me to compose the attached finale episode for Stingray. Now, if you don't even open the file up, I shall not be offended. I'm sure you must receive all sorts of stuff on a daily basis, and obviously I appreciate that it would be a Herculean task to sift through it all. Now, I'm not a professional writer, so I'm sure the format is all over the shop. Scripts, scene setting, action pieces, and so on. I even went as far as thinking of this as a live-action production and included some suggestions for casting. I was so excited and inspired when composing the piece, and in my head I can still envisage some of the scenes now. I know that I've borrowed from a number of other shows, there's Trek in there for sure, but the objective was to deliver an exciting, plausible and happy ending for all our beloved characters, building on what we had, but adding a new dimension possible with the live-action format and characterization. If you open it, read it, I'd be so proud of any feedback. It would be genuinely appreciated. I've shared it with a small number of my circle of Ander fans who are all highly complimentary, but then again, they would be, wouldn't they? They told me to send it to you when I first composed it. Anyway, over to you to see what happens next. Take care all, and thanks again for keeping the torch burning so brightly. And that's from Keith Thomas, age 64 and a half, and he's been here since Supercar.
Wow.
Great, Keith. How lovely to hear from you. That's fantastic. I mean, it just so happens we're recording this on a Saturday morning, so I've got the rest of the weekend stretching ahead of me. So I might actually have a look at that, settle down and have a read of Keith's work. See what that's about.
Get your red pen out, maybe some smiley face stickers, and see how you get on.
That's right. See me after. Right. This is from Ian Stevens, who says, "Hi, chap. I hope you're a chap. Chaps."
Which one of us?
Yeah, he does pluralise it. I hope you're all keeping well. I just wanted to write in to say thank you to both my sons Kyle and Freddie, who recently wrote in about me. Yes, you might remember this a few pods ago. I was stunned to hear that email being read in pod 246, and it certainly lifted my spirits immensely, and I cannot wait for the Space 1999 graphic novel to everything that was, having listened to the interviews with Andrew Gasker, or Drew as Jamie called him. Given that Kyle and Freddie ordered this, I think it will be a most treasured item among the merch that I own. Also, I'd like to thank the Podsterons, each and every one of them, for all their support as well. I was so unsure about posting on the group about the difficulties we've been experiencing, but the group rallied behind us, and their best wishes have certainly helped us immensely. Finally, I just want to thank you guys for the weekly podcast, all 252 of them at the time of writing. They've been a great distraction each week, although I did, over the Easter weekend, have to catch up on 3 of them, as I felt slightly behind due to job hunting. So I had something of a personal Anderthon over Easter, catching up on the pods and watching a fair few Gerry Anderson episodes together with the 2 Thunderbirds movies. Thanks for all you do, says Ian. I can't really express how much the worlds of Gerry Anderson mean to me. They're worlds I love to visit even in the darkest of times, as they always make me smile and remind me of better times. Very best regards.
Oh, that's nice, Ian, isn't it? Lovely.
Yeah.
and yeah, you can. I think the Podsteron community is so positive. You can always share your ups, downs, and sidewayses as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely true. Yeah, they're a lovely bunch of people, as we know well. This is from Liz Brock, who says about First Action Bureau, Jamie.
Oh, yes.
Liz says this series is such fun. I'm enjoying it again for the 4th time or so.
Blooming heck, Liz.
But I'm really wondering if there is going to be another series.
Well, there will be. Yes, we are pushing it along in the background as fast as we possibly can. So
yes. It's difficult. It's availability, isn't it, of cast and so on, because you had some big names in there, of course, who are always very busy. So getting everyone in the same place at the same time must be tricky for a start. You've got the writing of the thing. How's that going? Are you?
Well, if you just give me 1 second, I can tell you the word count.
Oh, okay.
This is exclusive news, Podsteron, and it's also absolutely fascinating. I'm sure for you to hear me search through my Google Drive. Let's have a look here. Sorry, the connection's a little bit slow.
Oh, keeping us on tenterhooks.
2 draft. Here we go.
55.
No, hang on.
Oh, 28. 7,000?
Here we go. 9,938 words.
Okay.
Series 2 script.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a very rude line, the second line of dialogue on page 1. So, I may have to tone that down slightly. It's been a while since I looked back to page 1. There you go. So there's an exclusive First Action Bureau update.
Yeah, I love it. Is it also fair to say that there might be sort of other forays into other media for First Action Bureau as well?
Richard James,
why
are you being all coy about this? You know exactly what the answer is there. Well, stop asking the question. Yes, there are other forays, aren't there? But they are also in progress.
Okay, that's for another Gerry Anderson News Day, isn't it?
Cheers, yeah.
Mark and Kaz Lawson have emailed to say, hi, Jamie, Richard, Chris, and all the wonderful folks at Gerry Anderson. Greetings from down under. I just happened to lately be working my way through my motor racing DVD collection, which happens to be my afternoon relaxing viewing whilst half asleep after early starts at work. Well, the Gerry Anderson connection. I've started watching the 1980 Hardy Ferodo Bathurst 1000. And would you believe they opened the telecast in a helicopter with Barry Gray's memorable Space 1999 main theme playing as the opening introduction music.
Oh, very nice. Very nice, very nice.
I can imagine that. Thanks for keeping us informed of all the great things happening in and coming out of the Gerry Anderson universe. Looking forward to Gerry Anderson Day. Have a great day. FAB from Mark and Kaz Lawson. Well, I hope you did enjoy your Gerry Anderson Day as well. Yeah, thanks for that.
Kaz.
Do keep them coming in to podcast@GerryAnderson.com, and if you're lucky, might read them out next time.
I
might.
Okay.
I might.
You can't guarantee it. Very much like you can't guarantee sending you a hard copy of the email guidance. By which time, if you've requested it, you don't need it because you.
Yeah. Exactly right.
That's a bit silly, really. Anyway, I think something that's not silly, something that's much more serious, and a great thing to do.
Running for a good cause?
Oh, how did you guess? Yes.
Well, just brought it at the top of my head.
As you may recall from last week, Ben spoke to Lloyd Scott, a charity marathon runner who dresses up as an array of characters, and this year is dressed up as Captain Scarlet, is raising money for cancer research. So let's hear from Lloyd Scott for part 2 of his chat with Ben.
So you were very ill. What happened next? Did you kind of and how did that lead to the philanthropy side of it?
Well, that you mean from the leukemia side, or
yeah,
yeah, that was it was like a kind of visiting my childhood, again. So it was different looking at all the episodes again from a more adult perspective,
right?
And there were some episodes I remember vividly. Pit of Peril, I remember that as well.
Me too.
And then the other ones that wow, I don't remember them. So that was great. And then a similar thing with the Captain Scarlet. There was obviously ones that I had that I remembered, and then some that, oh wow, what happens here? And I didn't realise there was like a continuation of the of the Lunaville episode.
Right. Yeah.
So it was great picking up things, watching it as an adult that I kind of missed when I was a kid.
Sure. And then you survived leukemia, obviously.
Yep.
How did you start becoming involved with charity and raising money and all this stuff?
That's right, yeah. I did the London Marathon 3 weeks before going into hospital for my bone marrow transplant.
Right.
I was fortunate enough that I was well enough when I actually had my transplant.
That's extraordinary.
I was determined to do it the year afterwards, and it was 11 months after, less than 11 months afterwards. And I managed to do it just 11 months after my bone marrow transplant.
That's unbelievable.
And then
did you have a background? Were you a marathon runner before you got sick?
I think I'd done 1 or 2 beforehand, but not. And I'm not really built for it,
Sure.
I'm more built for, I suppose, being a goalkeeper, which I was when I was a footballer.
Right.
Goalkeepers aren't renowned as being great runners.
Sure.
But after that, I then had fate played a hand. My very first night back on the fire engine, so I was involved in a crash with a police car going to an emergency call, and I sustained injuries to my neck. and I was medically retired from the fire brigade, and I kind of thought at this point somebody's trying to tell me something here.
Yeah.
And so I kind of moved into the charity sector, and as well as doing my like desk job or like fundraising and PR and media, I also wanted to continue doing my own charity fundraising.
Right.
So I think I went from London, then I did the Snowdonia one in Wales, which is one of the toughest ones in the UK. And then I thought, well, what's better? Well, what's bigger than Snowdonia? And came up with there's actually found out there's an Everest marathon. Yeah, amazing. It starts near base camp at about 18,000 feet. And by this time, I'd actually met my bone marrow donor. I had an unrelated transplant, and he agreed to come out with me. We both did that together, and then I was kind of on that merry-go-round. I then did the marathon to Saab, and then I did an expedition to the South Pole, and then another marathon, ultra marathon through Death Valley.
An ultra marathon through Death Valley. Is that what you said?
That was pretty hot. Yeah.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the hottest years. I think somebody said that year was like 130 or something in the shade.
Good grief.
But I was clever and I stayed in the sun.
That's like your own pit of peril. That's when they're talking about the temperatures going up.
Absolutely. And so, I was doing these things. I keep reading about, the toughest race in the world. So I'd have a go at that. I did an ultra marathon, the Jordan Desert Cup it was. And I did that dressed as Indiana Jones because it finished at Petra, where Indy finds the Holy Grail.
Yes, in the third movie.
I've got to be honest, a little bit of a mixed reaction because there was like loads of people there, kitted out in their lycra and their spandex and their ultra racing kit to do this.
Sure.
And I turned up at the start wearing a brown fedora, a leather jacket, wool trousers, and it was great. I managed to get round. I think it took me 55 hours. But I think some of them were a little bit peeved that, this was supposed to be the ultimate test, and where they'd done it in all their running. Some bloke had done it wearing a hat, a leather jacket, and wool trousers.
Were you the only one in the race in costume?
It was great. The finish was right by the treasury in Petra, where Indy finds a grail. So it was actually like quite ethereal. Like, hey, wow, we're really kind of here. So,
you completed the quest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then really, I watched the London Marathon, and I saw like the rhinos. They have these people have these fantastic rhino costumes, and I just looked at them and I thought, that's great. They weigh about 35 pounds or something like that. And then I got to think, what's the worst possible costume you could actually wear and complete the London?
Most people would be thinking about just, surviving a marathon. You're thinking, how can I do it in the worst possible costume? What's the worst it could be?
Yeah. So I came up with the idea of the deep sea diving suit. And and I told everyone, I told the organisers, and they went, like absolute nutter, but just make sure you start at the back and don't get in anyone's way, which I duly did. And I know on race day, the start gun went off and everyone, 35,000 people run down the road. And I was at the back, and I think by the time I actually reached the start line, they were dismantling it. They were down, yeah. So, and that took me 5 days, 8 hours, and 29 minutes to 46 seconds to complete it. But during that time, a time before social media, we just got an amazing amount of coverage. And we raised a lot of money for charity, so
It's amazing.
yeah.
And where did the idea to start doing costumes come from? Was it those rhinos, or you'd been doing costumes before that?
Yeah, not really. I did the marathon once in my fire gear when I was a fireman.
Okay.
And I realised, I think the first time I put something on, I can't remember what it was, like for a fun run, I realised that actually running in this wasn't too much fun. It was a little bit of hey, it's a fun run, but if you put this on, actually wasn't fun. And I think the next one, the race started on St George's Day. So I had this fantastic suit of armour made. And I went to St George and I pulled this dragon behind me. And it was part of a fundraising scheme to help Steve Redgrave break the world fundraising record.
Right.
The London Marathon. And we actually did. I think it raised 1.8 million at the time. So that was a pretty good effort.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do you find that people are more inclined to support you because of these costumes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other one, probably my and then the next time, Indiana Jones, and we actually had an incredible, like 300-pound boulder made, and an aluminium harness. I mean, it was significant. We had to be taken out on a lorry. And I was strapped in at the front. And we had a few issues with the boulder wanting to run into the curve, with a bevel on the camber on the road, it would run away.
Yeah.
So we had to think how to get around that. So we actually had two Jovito Indians had like a bar to steer the boulder. Well, part of the course, you actually go out and you come back on yourself in London. And as I was still going out, these people that were like 9 miles in front of me were coming back the other way, and they were just all clapping. And it was really humbling because normally I don't get to see them. I'm so far behind. But to have the other runners actually appreciating what I was doing, it nearly brought me to tears. It was one guy in his own costume just stopped and started clapping, and it was very humbling to see what the other competitors actually thought of my efforts.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how does one even begin to train for a race in costume? I imagine there's quite a bit more to it than just regular marathon training, which is pretty involved in and of itself.
Yeah, the diving suit was the most difficult one because although it was really heavy, 130, 140 pounds, the weight was distributed loads about 70 pounds on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And then boots were about 25 pounds each. So there isn't really anything that can replicate that in a gym. So I would actually go out with a kind of weight vest on and actually wear the boots. And I know a friend of my brother's saw me one evening. I used to do it under the cover of night.
Makes sense.
So I didn't look too bizarre.
Right.
But he saw me, and next time he sort of met up, he, oh no, poor Lloyd. He's like, he's not well again. He's like ill. It's such a shame. I thought he'd beaten it, and he's such a nice guy. But what do you mean? What do you mean? And they said, oh, I saw him the other night out walking, and he was all hunched over, and he could barely move his legs. And my brother went, no. He's training for the marathon. He's practicing to wear this deep sea diving suit. It has had its moments when you try and train for these events.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Captain Scarlet.
Yeah, we've got to talk about Captain Scarlet still, and I really want to know about your snail costume. That was one where you weren't running, You were actually crawling the London Marathon. How did that come about, and why? Why did you put yourself through that?
Good question. I mean, some of these I look back on now and I think, what on earth was I doing?
Right.
What I try to do is mix things up, so it's not all the same. It's not just here we are, you know. So hence, obviously, you had the diving suit, was very heavy. Then we had the suit of armor with the dragon. Then we had Indiana Jones with the boulder. My favourite costume was the Iron Giant. That was amazing because it was over 9 feet tall, and the guy that made it, he actually made the eyes light up.
Yeah.
And inside the costume, I had a little handle, which if I squeezed it, it made the mouth open. And I was looking kind of through a grill in the chest, and I was actually on stilts within the legs.
Mm-hmm.
So people would look at the Iron Giant, they would think someone's in there, but they couldn't quite work out where in the costume I was.
Right.
Because I obviously wasn't 9 feet tall. The mouth was opening and talking. So yeah, and we played a prank on people and said it's being worked by remote control.
Right.
It was fascinating.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I highly recommend people look up pictures and videos of these because they're really, really great to look at.
Couldn't work out where somebody was in that costume. So so yeah, it's about trying to make things different, and that's where he came up with the idea with the snail. Brian the Snail, we wanted to have a little bit of fun, and I was basically on a kind of sledge inside the costume,
kind of like you would use to go under a car to fix it.
No, it was just like a metal frame sledge.
Oh wow!
And I had these. They're like press up handles that you hold, and I kind of just pulled it along like that at the rate of 1 mile a day.
Wow. You're making 1 mile a day.
Yeah. Canary Wharf in the gardens there. And
unbelievable.
In the morning, somebody came up and touched the snail and kind of rocked it. And it kind of went, and I went, hello. And you could hear him go, ah, like that. He just jumped. And then Ryan's shell on the top of him was removable. And I kind of just lifted this shell up and I peered out the back. And he just freaked out. And he went, this is a wind-up. You've got cameras here. You set me up. This is I went, no. I said, I'm just doing the London Marathon still. But, that was
several days later.
Yeah, that was very funny. His response to that.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary adventure to do the London Marathon that way, and also a good place to hide an SPV, Lloyd, inside Brian the Snail.
Yeah. It would have been. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What a great toy that was. I mean, that was up there with the James Bond's DB5.
Yeah,
for me.
Did you have the die-cast one with the missile launcher?
Yep, absolutely. And you press the button and he comes out and he's at the side of the vehicle, facing backwards.
Yeah, of course.
And then, of course, you had the snow tracks at the back.
Brilliant again, design feature.
Funny, like watching it later on. There's episodes there. I don't know that. I can't remember the names of all. But one where they're going along in the snow and he has to take a shortcut. Why doesn't he use the snow tracks on the back of the SUV? That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if you're not going to use them now, you're never going to use them. And I was really disappointed that throughout the whole series, they never dropped those tracks at the back of the SP.
That is a shame, isn't it? But it's nice to have things like that because you're imagination takes it and runs with it. You see the extra features, and it's like, oh, there's a whole nother possible set of options for Captain Scarlet to choose from that maybe we never see on screen, but it exists in your imagination as a viewer.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing.
So yeah, it does take you to another place, which is great. It's like, it's what I wanted anyway. So
yeah, it's pure adventure. Great stuff.
Inspirational stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lloyd.
Wonderful.
If you'd like to support Lloyd's efforts, you can go to ander.son/greatscott, all lowercase. You can support his efforts there. So yes, do help Captain Scarlet if you possibly can. Thank you very much.
Great. Now, we have mentioned already our wonderful Podsterons and their Facebook group, which you can join at facebook.com/groups/Podsteron.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to head over there right now, live as it were, on my phone, to see what the Podsterons have been talking about over the last few days. Rob Pollard has opened up proceedings by simply saying, long time since I've been on here.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Welcome back, Rob.
Yeah, we've missed you. What can I say? If you decided Thunderbird's comic strips were to be reprinted, would it include everything, asks John Jackson, including the 1990s strips, or just the TV21 stuff? And did the two Egmont's comic collections already reprinted have everything from TV21, or did it miss stuff out, says John?
I'm not sure. I think it missed stuff out. If we do that, we'd always want to be as complete as possible. But there are always rights issues around these things, particularly the nearer to now that you get, quite often the tougher the rights situation becomes. So, yes, if we do one, it'll be as complete as possible. That's all I can say.
We're almost a couple of weeks out of Gerry Anderson Day now, but of course, as you imagine, the Podsterons had a rare old time on Gerry Anderson Day. Button Moon Hannah posted it was a year ago today that I went to Birmingham, and it was the first time I met everyone outside the Facebook group. So this was for our wonderful day in Birmingham, the live podcast, and then the Stand By for Action concert in the evening.
A mad day.
Wow! Yeah. It was also the first time of my viewing of the new documentary A Life Uncharted at the Electric Cinema. I had an amazing time, and it was a delight to meet everyone and get to know everyone as fun-loving and kind people who I can share my interests with. To mark this occasion, I'm watching the documentary on Blu-ray at home. I raise my mug and wish you all a very happy Gerry Anderson Day, and that was from Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah. Happy belated Gerry Anderson Day.
Yeah, I wonder how many people watched the documentary on that day specifically. A nice thing to have done, I'm assuming, but then also you'd want to follow it up with something perhaps a little brighter, one of the classic episodes as well, I would say.
An episode of Space Precinct, perhaps, in high definition. What could be more cheering than that?
Yeah. Yuhan Hu says, it looks like Gerry Anderson Day falls on the same day as Cambodian New Year's. So cheers, Gerry, and Susade Chinam Timay.
Wow. I didn't realise
says Yuhan, I am Cambodian. Well,
you spoke
I'm
Cambodian,
not,
Richard?
So I gave it my best shot. Edit. I doubt Richard would be game enough to pronounce that. Should he pick this out to read in the next podcast? Well, I think you'll find I did give it my best shot.
Very good. This is the man who can perfectly replicate Terry Wogan's voice, so I think you'll find a bit of Cambodian isn't going to scare him off.
That's right. Andy Jacqueline says, today would have been Gerry Anderson's 94. Thank you for giving me an FAB childhood. Rebecca Andrews has got the Joe 90 soundtrack. This arrived today, so celebrating Gerry Anderson Day with some classic themes.
Lovely.
And finally, Alex Pass posted a link to Space 1999 from Big Finish saying Happy Gerry Anderson Day. Obviously, that's how he spent his time. 1 year on, says David Hollis, looking back to the big concert in Birmingham, this event was one of the first big events that people were allowed to go to for about 3 years after the COVID lockdowns. The event was buzzing from excited fans of the Gerry Anderson shows. The music was from the start of Gerry Anderson puppet shows, going all the way through the 1950s up to Terrorhawks in the 1980s. Well, and beyond, David, as well.
Much beyond,
remember.
yes.
And finally, for now, Jonathan Westall, hope everyone has enjoyed Gerry Anderson Day today and have celebrated in their own fab way. I started with Super Marination Marathon today, watching an episode of each series. Below are the episodes I watched. Would you like to hear them?
Yes, please.
Four Feather Falls, First Train Through, Supercar, Pirate Plunder, Fireball XL5, the Granitoid Tanks, Stingray, the Big Gun, Thunderbirds Trapped in the Sky, Captain Scarlet, the Mysterons, Big Ben Strikes Again, Joe 90, Double Agent, the Secret Service, A Case for the Bishop. I also watched the Space Precinct episode Body and Soul on YouTube. It looks so much better in HD. I even listened to my CD copy of the new Joe 90 soundtrack, which arrived today. I really enjoyed listening to Barry Gray's music, and I'm finishing the day by watching the filmed in Super Marination documentary film. Happy Gerry Anderson Day to my fellow Podsterons, FAB, SIG, PWOR, and that's from Jonathan West. So there we go. My first opportunity, really, since Gerry Anderson Day, because we do pre-record these a little in advance. Yep, to look back and see how you all enjoyed it and how you all spent it. So that was really nice to see. So do join in the fun. I say it every week. Head on over to Facebook and join in the group. Answer a couple of questions. We'll let you in and you can make yourself at home.
Yes, absolutely. Pull up a chair, maybe a nice cushion.
Yeah.
Blanket, perhaps.
That's right.
And,
all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Space Precinct pillowcase, you know.
Officer or in underpants. No. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, the best place to move on to is clearly the randomizer. Where we're joined by Chris Randomizer Dale himself, Pope Randomizer III, whatever he's called, I don't know. He turns up every week, he's got his randomizer, he presses the red button with Marina, and they pick a random episode of Random Gerry Anderson Show and they watch it and say things. Well, Chris does, Marina is a bit quiet. So, without further ado, here is Chris and his randomizer.
Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, no time for a big introduction today, as the randomizer has already made today's selection, and it's,
Collision Metamorph!
Well, I think it was just the Metamorph, actually. Here's Space 1999. So, welcome back to the randomizer, Space 1999, the second season of. We haven't been here since Seed of Destruction, which wasn't too long ago. And this is, of course, the very first episode of Season 2. Had a lot of first episodes recently.
We have just survived our second encounter with a space warp.
But after their uneven first series, at least in terms of audience reception and critical approval, the Alphans are back with a new look.
Had no casualties.
And a lot of unanswered questions regarding what brought about that new look and where certain people have gone.
Severely damaged.
And as I think I've made clear by now, if you don't already know, I firmly believe that Series 1 and Series 2 are two completely different universes. They are essentially two goes at the same concept. But I first saw this in 1998, this episode, I think, whenever the BBC showed it.
Bring the atmosphere now, Commander.
And I was already aware that the second season was different from the first because I had already seen Cosmic Princess and Destination Moonbase Alpha. Oh wait, this is in Cosmic Princess, isn't it? So I would have seen this before the BBC transmitted it.
Atmosphere brief.
So I was aware that the later episodes of the show were substantially different from the earlier ones. I will never have what must have been that...
No settlements, no life.
I don't know, just huge shock moments of fans settling down to watch this in 76 or 77, whenever it was first broadcast. And just being so hyped and excited for the return of that series that they love, and then getting it and think, oh, who's this? What's that? Where? What? Who? Oh, not sure about this.
Titanium.
And it's hard to... I'm struggling to think of other shows that have that...
The base. Right, Commander.
That substantial shift between seasons in terms of tone and the way the show is presented, to the extent that it almost feels like a different thing. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century would be one, and so would the original Battlestar Galactica. But I don't know. It's one of those things I kind of regret. I will never have had that experience of the shock of this new look Space 1999. But on the other hand, it's probably a good thing because it means I was far more willing to accept all of this when I first saw it.
There's a strange light coming off that planet.
Give me a position.
And I still like this to this day, and I believe this is one of the stronger episodes of the second season, if not the series as a whole, really.
Of some kind. Security alert.
Perhaps not surprisingly, because as we discussed recently, this began life as a script by Johnny Byrne written in the first season style. But this is Series 2.
Fraser, face to action!
And we got a bit more action, dramatic music, as Eagle pilots Fraser and Torrens try to escape a deadly ball of green light. Well, actually, it's not deadly, as we find out in a few minutes, but it may as well be. I'm not keen on that shot of the Eagle banking around the camera, just because it looks very close to the camera, and it's very darkly lit.
Your tail!
We're trying!
Stop shouting at me. He's doing his best. And Anuska Hempel is in Command Center, watching all this with great concern.
Do something, Alpha, for God's sake, do something! Help us, Alpha!
Yes, Anuska Hempel, who was skydiver and shadow operative in UFO a few times. But there we go, the Eagle has been captured by the glowing green ball, dragged down to the planet. It's all too much for Anuska Hempel, a.k.a. Annette Fraser. She's collapsed.
Command Center.
Yes, this is a shift from the first season, because we have, in the first season, that's where we would have got the opening titles after that pre-titles teaser, but we don't get that in the second season. The opening titles are right up front, and I'm kind of indifferent. I think both work perfectly fine, but I think possibly because the first season titles are different every week, they kind of fit slightly better after a pre-titles hook, shall we say.
Laser battery, number 1, active.
Whereas with the second season, it's like, it's the same every week, so it doesn't matter, just get it out of the way.
Life on that planet. I've checked and double-checked, Commander. There is no life sign on the surface.
This is our new science officer. Victor Bergman is
Planet is an environment.
Nowhere to be seen, and here we have
life as we know it could exist down there.
This heavily dubbed actor named Gerard Paquis, or Paquis, whatever, but he's playing a character named Picard. But more importantly,
You know who I am.
it's another familiar face.
Who are you?
I am Mentor of the planet Psychon.
Or more importantly, familiar voice. Brian Blessed. Always good fun.
To our planet and talk of peace.
That ship was a survey vessel searching for minerals. We had no way of knowing your planet was inhabited.
You know how when you watch shows, maybe it's just me, if you watch them over and over, you hear a line of dialogue and you don't hear it right.
The past. And we have suffered greatly.
Easy.
And it can be many years before you actually hear what the line of dialogue is. There was a pair of lines there from Mentor and Koenig that I always heard wrong. But yet, hearing them wrong the way I did made sense. In my version, I heard Mentor say, "You sent an armed ship to our planet and took a piece." And Koenig said, "We had no way of knowing your planet was an atom." And I don't know why I heard them those way round. But, oh, yeah, I'm sure we've all had those moments. I'm sure I'm not alone. Please tell me I'm not alone.
I'm afraid that could cause further misunderstanding. I suggest we rendezvous, but in space.
And is there an uglier costume in the history of the series than the jacket thing that Koenig is wearing in this scene? I don't think he wears it in any other episode, which is nice, because it's just terrible. And although I really like, actually, the jackets that they gave the crew, a lot of the crew, for the second season.
That's very generous of you.
Even though there's no real rhyme or reason to the colour scheme, or indeed why they have them. That commander's jacket in this first episode is just all wrong.
It will be done.
And I think I remember hearing or reading somewhere that Landau himself didn't like it and gave it away to a fan, so I mean, I hope it still exists.
Alan?
But it's just an ugly mess of a thing.
Off. And Alan, equip it with additional booster units.
Right. It'll look really cool if we put booster units on.
You're in a hurry to get out there, aren't you?
I may be in a hurry to get back.
So Alan is still our chief pilot, but we have this new guy hanging around the place, Tony Vedeschi, who seems to have replaced Paul Morrow. And as I said, I look at these as two completely separate universes, so it's almost pointless saying that so-and-so was a replacement for someone else, because in my headcanon, I don't think Paul Morrow was ever on the second season Moon. But I suppose that's a more recent concept, the idea of headcanon or personal canon.
Would I make a good Alphen father?
Stop. Within the sort of the original broadcast run, people would have been trying to reconcile this as a continuation of the first year, and
Father.
I don't think you can. I think just too much has changed. Not just the missing characters, which you could accept if there was an explanation for them, as indeed there was for Bergman, written into the original script, saying that he died in a faulty spacesuit. Well, that's cheerful. The idea of moving out of main mission into command center underground makes sense. Again, that was never established on screen. I don't think they ever say that command center is underground. But it's the tone, it's the style, it's to a certain extent the way the characters behave, but it's just the atmosphere and the tone. that are the greatest shock, I think, between the two seasons. And I don't see how you can sort of come up with an in-universe explanation for that. But who knows? I could be wrong. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what I think. Because we all enjoy the show for different reasons, different ways, indeed different seasons.
You think you can handle it?
Please, Doctor, I feel much better now.
There's Dr. Matthias in the background.
Well, maybe it is better to keep busy.
Anton Phillips clearly thinking,
No,
this is not the same show as last year. I've been on the screen twice now and I haven't been beaten up yet. But Annette's come to see them off at the travel tube. There's Koenig, Helena, Carter and Picard.
You're back.
Thank you.
Go off to Psychon in their Eagle.
Good luck.
To rescue Bill Fraser and Other Guy. Other Guy being Ray Torrens, played by Nick Brimble, who's turned up in a lot of things. You may recognise him from... he's been various tough guy dramas, things like The Professionals and The Sweeney and so forth, but he's been in films like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves and so on. Still working to this day, I believe, which is nice. I love this dramatic music as well. It's our first Eagle launch of the second season. Perhaps not the greatest, because the wire on that model is quite visible there. I'm also, and this may be a controversial thing to say, I may have my fan credentials taken away here, I'm not a huge fan of the look of the Booster Eagle, and I know a lot of people are, but I just think it's kind of, I mean, it fits that functional aesthetic of the Eagle craft, but...
They are men of honor.
I don't know, it just looks... The Eagle is beautiful, and now it has this sort of sticky up
We're in position.
rear section. I don't know. I also don't understand how the boosters are supposed to
John Koenig.
help,
Rendezvous point.
because they seem to be pointing down onto the craft. Yes, I don't think they're ever seen again after this episode, actually, aside from possibly hanging around in the hangar deck at various points. I don't think we see them fitted to any other Eagles again. Anywho, I've kind of waffled all over the premise of this episode, but we have Brian Blessed and his daughter Maya on this dying planet Psychon. They live underground with a biological computer thingy, which is, well, it's got a lot of tubes of liquid, coloured liquid with bubbles flying around the place, but it can turn...
There it is.
...rocks into spaceships.
I want a full scan on that ship.
Not especially attractive spaceships, though, but fast, because it's already made it into orbit with the Eagle. Magnetic energy fluctuating, that's not good. Magnetic energy, always comes back to magnetic energy. And another odd thing with, this is the first episode of Series 2. We've had lots of first episodes recently on the Randomiser, with Four Feather Falls and XL5, and now this. Life Sign 0.
John!
No.
There are no life forms on that ship. Fraser, Torrens, they're not on it. The ship is empty.
Well, he never said they would be, but this clearly isn't a good sign. Oh.
We're losing altitude.
Mentor's ship is radiating magnetic energy. He's using it like a magnet, pulling you down to his planet.
That's another lovely line. The first of many notable quotes from Tony. Magnetic energy was a problem going back to the first episode of the first season, wasn't it? It's the reason that the moon left orbit in the first place. But I think the science... Not that this show was huge on the science front, but I think the science has been toned down a bit there, where you have magnetic energy. It works just like a magnet. I'm sure that's not quite how it works. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe that's why it's called magnetic energy, but I suspect that's not quite how things would go. But this is a fun sequence. Of the Eagle being dragged down to the surface. The boosters, well, they're trying their best, but the actors are having a lot of fans blown on their faces. But there we go, managed to break away. I also like as well that the laboratory pod, for it is a laboratory pod Eagle, there are boosters on that are contributing to this escape.
We're clear, Tony. Returning to base.
Because it was never really established on screen in the first season that was a laboratory pod as such, nor did those sticky out bits on the side ever really correlate to anything that was on the live action set. But having escaped...
That ship! It's turning into a ball of light!
Ball of light time! Yes, Psychon is a place where things can turn into other things. Be they rocks into spaceships and into balls of light, or girls into tigers and lions and things. But once you're in that green ball of doom, down you go. Yes, I would love to know, podcast at GerryAnderson.com, if you... what you felt about this episode, if you were lucky enough or perhaps unlucky enough to see it on first broadcast. And by unlucky I mean that you are very, very old now. I'm sorry, but yeah, just the sort of culture shock element of it. I mean, I remember when this first went out on the BBC, so 98. This would have been the first time it was sort of had a network transmission. So for a lot of regions in the UK, some of whom didn't get the second season, or at least didn't get it in a sort of prime time slot.
It's like a graveyard of spaceships.
There would have been a lot of people around the country saying, I never saw this version of the show. I never saw this theme tune. Heard this theme tune, I should say. But now we're in a spaceship graveyard.
4-2 Moonbase Alpha. Come in, Alpha.
Getting ready to head on out there. And the graveyard is full of familiar bits and pieces from other episodes, including bits from Dragon's Domain, and Moonbase Alpha's own nuclear charges from Collision Course are out there as well.
I'm never alarmed when I deal with a man of integrity.
I see that you are angry, and I must admit you have cause.
It's a lovely performance from Brian Blessed in this episode as well.
Stand.
I'll understand what you want.
Because we're still just at that point before he became Brian Blessed Shouty Man.
Don't trust him, he's lying! Commander, we're being held.
And there's an interesting story that John Hug tells around the filming of that scene where he pushes Mentor out of the way to talk to the commander. And Brian stopped him and said, No, you're rushing through this. You stay here. You stay on screen just a bit longer. Get your screen time. You don't have much to do in this. And I think that's a lovely idea that Brian would help him in that way. Just even a little. Anywho.
Let's make for that cave.
Yes, the Alphans have conveniently landed next to a cave they're going in to explore. Meanwhile, because Bill Fraser is unconscious, Ray Torrens is introduced to the lush, plush, comfy chair in the next room. He's not happy about that because he's been strapped down. And now, this thingy, this upside-down salad bowl with various sucker bits attached, is being lowered over his head. And I think I've said this previously in probably one of the scary moment videos that I did for the YouTube channel. This is probably one of the more unsettling scenes in the second season. Just seeing this poor guy having his mind drained. A, because Brian Blessed looks so happy about it. B, because Nick Brimble doesn't even get any lines. You just hear that horrible whine of Psyche, and see his just that intensely pained expression on his face.
Beam is bouncing off a scanner shield of some kind. We're not going to read anything they don't want us to read.
My God, I'm in command.
Is she going to be all right?
She will, as long as she knows that he is alive. Be patient with her, Tony. They have only been married 2 months.
And she's only in this episode, and after this week, you don't have to worry about her ever again. Yes, I suppose the inclusion of the Frasers here was really an attempt to humanise the characters, one of many. I don't know to what extent it's successful, but I would say Anuska Hempel is trying her best with very limited material. It's also strange that you have another married couple on this show, which you saw very seldom, but they have no screen time at all. John Hug and Anuska Hempel. Anywho, we're exploring the caves of Psychon. And here's Maya. I love Maya. I think we all love Maya. Even people who don't like the second season.
Maya! Observe!
Have, if not a fondness for the character, an appreciation of just how much Catherine Schell puts into this. And this story in particular is a real roller coaster of emotions and drama for her.
Oh, yes.
And there are no harmful side effects?
None.
I think a lot of people who dislike the character, it's mainly because of the metamorphic abilities.
Well, they are intelligent people.
Rather than anything that Catherine was doing wrong, because I can't think of a single moment in this whole season where she's not 100% convincing.
Lou, titanium,
Yes, it is.
Oh, you're more...
Mamma mia, I am now Italian for some reason. Yeah, it's clearly not that actor's voice. That's Robert Rietti yet again. But here we are in the... Is this the Grove of Psychon? No, the Grove is the control room bit. This is just the labour pits of Psychon, where various brain-drained aliens are hauling large rocks into
spaceships we saw
containers. Not an especially convincing bunch of extras here, it has to be said. We've got Badger Man.
The way they move. The way they look.
Yeah, there's TV's Frank.
They're all behaving in the same way. It must be some sort of brain damage.
There we go, brain damage.
Now we know what Mentor meant by welcome.
It's another shot on the Space 1999 drinking game. Good old brain damage. See, the show has changed dramatically, but you know, brain damage. They're never gonna abandon brain damage. It served them so well in the past. We're just gonna kind of wander off now. And this is an interesting bit because they're about to meet brain-drained Torrens. Yes, there's Mouldy Cabbage Head Man. But Torrens is coming into shot. Suddenly, he's wearing a Series 1 uniform. You can tell because the collar's a bit different. But also his uniform is suddenly in rags. Like, there are bits missing. And in terms of the story's continuity, or chronology I should say, it seems like this has only just happened to him.
John?
So what's he been doing to get so dirty, aside from hauling all this rock? Also, who screamed? Was that him stubbing his toe or something? I don't know. It just seems like a sort of shock moment for the sake of having a shock moment. Speaking of shocks, Koenig just shot the Overseer guard, but unfortunately he turned into a rock.
That charge was only set to stun.
I didn't have it on the turn person into rock setting.
Information. We've seen it in the spaceship and the balls of light. Here it is again.
Surrender your weapons, Commander.
So, Picard, obviously the scientist of the group, he's very interested in all this. And here's...
There is an energy screen around this image.
Mentor again.
You cannot get through.
Lou, how can we get past that energy screen?
I just told you, you cannot get through.
A communication circuit. Laser energy might just be able to overload it.
Yeah, don't do it.
You, Koenig. Any force you use will be turned against you.
Double don't do it.
Think I can neutralize it. Wait!
And there he was gone. So we now have a vacancy for a chief science officer on Alpha. Yet another one. Presumably, if you do look at this as the same continuity as Year 1, wherever Victor went, Picard was... was a very short-lived replacement by the look of it. Poor old Picard. But at least his name badge lived on. I believe it was given to extra Jenny Cresswell. So, I mean, maybe she was his wife or sister or something, but she doesn't seem especially bothered to have lost him. She was actually also at the reception point as the rescue team embarked at the travel tube. And she didn't say goodbye to him, so, yeah. Maybe they're not on speaking terms. Who cares? Who knows? Anywho, the Alphans have now been captured. Koenig is in a bright orange cell with a bright orange dog bowl and a bright orange table, a bright orange glass of something, and a lion. And I understand they had lots of problems with the lions in this episode. One of them was too aggressive and one of them was... too friendly, and the other one didn't really want to do anything. And I think there's like pictures of they even tried like an ocelot or something, and it looks really cute. But there's Maya, and I love that. That's another really cute thing. That sort of tee-hee reaction that she gives, because I like that actually. It's a nice alien moment. She doesn't realise.
Did I startle you, Commander?
That her behaviour might have been a bit
Forgive me, I meant no harm.
A bit much there.
Full of fun and games.
And she's genuine in what she said there. She really didn't mean any harm. She was just pretending to be a lion. So it is a fun way to introduce the character to Koenig.
And just as tricky.
She seems...
Sorry, I should have warned you.
Like...
About the Force.
A threat, a villain, someone who isn't on side. But she is absolutely genuine and pure and naive, which will play into the story later on.
I've been lied to, assaulted, seen my people brutalized, killed. Shall I go on? Mentor betrayed us, viciously destroyed.
My father would harm no one.
Wonder what he was going to say, viciously destroyed there.
Come.
Viciously destroyed my science officer. My Picard. I had a Picard before it was fashionable for sci-fi shows to have a Picard. Anywho, she's let him out of the cell. And these corridor sets, I may have mentioned before, were reused multiple times through the second season. They are in One Moment of Humanity, all the way up to the Dorcons, and you can always tell because they're the same basic shape. So now, Helena, Alan, and Bill are in the Psyche chairs, and Brian Blessed is making some really good, he's doing some really good cape acting there. Not a lot of actors can pull off convincing cape flourishes, but he does it with great aplomb here. Yes, Helena, Alan and Bill are now being fitted with the sort of hairdryer of doom brain-sucking attachments.
Relax, Commander. Your friends are inside.
Yes, it's hard to relax when he's being followed by another Overseer. The Overseer costumes are quite unfortunate. I kind of like the headgear. They remind me a bit of the Robo-Men from the second Dalek movie. It's just the lower half, specifically the nappy. And unfortunately, this would not be the last guest costume in the second season to include a nappy. But at least this one isn't bright yellow.
Psyche, Commander.
And this scene is, I would say, one of the highlights of the episode.
Create the minds and bodies of those of our people.
Because you have these two great actors pitching their encounter at slightly different levels.
My people.
Koenig is obviously understandably concerned about his people and angry about what's happened. And Mentor is in this almost sort of a dream world.
Planet, a volcanic furnace.
It's like, no, it doesn't matter about your people. Look at this! I've made a computer of bubbly liquids.
The beautiful world it once was.
It reminds me kind of this is very, very obscure for anyone who doesn't live in the UK. Anyone ever went to Chessington World of Adventures? This is all a bit Professor Burp's Bubble Works.
Psyche!
I love that moment, though, as if Koenig's just trying to say, come on, where's my people? And all Mentor can say is like, Psyche is an end to itself. It's great. But here it comes.
Need your outfits.
Oh, now Koenig puts it all together. I also like that moment that I sort of waffled over there where Koenig says, well, we'll determine our own destinies, which is a total opposite to how it was in the first season, with the idea of them being guided towards their destiny. Now the Alphans are slightly more in control of themselves. Again, if you look at it within it's as an in-universe thing, it would be fascinating to see what caused that shift in their thinking. But I don't think we'll ever get that. This is fantastic, though.
You expect me to submit my people to this obscenity?
Your presence here in space has given me a chance, perhaps my only chance, to make my world live again.
By draining all of the Alphan minds.
You must admit. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Psyche has the power of molecular transformation. Power code. Transform matter into any form or shape I choose. Observe your lunar landscape.
This is an interesting side of Psyche's use, which I don't think gets too much focus. It's not just Maya who can turn herself into other things. It's the computer can affect even stuff out there on the moon. There's a big old explosion on the lunar surface, caused by Psyche.
Weapons section?
There's Petrov.
Sudden energy charge of enormous thrust in the research area. Send out a unit to investigate.
Yes, sir.
I love the way Petrov looks at his helper lady there, as if to say, oh, something's happened. This is unusual. Normally we just sit in this cupboard all day long.
Thank you.
I also don't know what the research area would be. It looks like any other rocky patch of lunar rock, but I'm sure someone's doing some vital research there. Maybe Picard.
To do it, destroy the moon and you defeat yourself.
Uh-huh.
No moon, no Alphans. Do what I ask.
Some people have found that line quite funny over the years. I'm not one of them. It is a line that, taken out of context, sounds somewhat amusing. destroy the moon and you defeat yourself.
You wish to know about the rest of your party?
Ah, yes. There they are. Oh, dear. It's, you see Helena, Alan and Bill ready to have their brains drained, but all I can see is that man with a nappy standing behind them. That's by far the...
He's dry, and Psyche shall have them.
The more intimidating and threatening element of this scene. And here it goes. Oh dear. And some lovely pained reactions on the faces of all three. Although some of Alan's reactions kind of remind me of sort of ice cream headaches. But this is something I've never quite understood in sci-fi shows generally, when someone's having their brain zapped like this, or sucked out I should say, and it's a gradual process that goes on for, I guess, they've had at least a minute here of having their brains sucked out. But then it gets turned off and they're absolutely fine. There is no, diminished capacity. They're just perfectly fine afterwards. Oh, of course, Koenig is looking at Helena.
Yes, Commander?
Nah, turn it back on again. And some lovely music in this scene as well. I've always loved Derek Wadsworth's score for this series. Not only the main theme, but there's some lovely incidental bits. And this episode has some of the best.
Tony, it is coming from the planet.
John, we'd given you up.
I'd installed myself as the new commander.
I've got good news. We've made contact with the people down here. Our senses misinformed us about this planet. There are huge subterranean areas which are habitable.
Yeah, that's not really an improvement to the moon.
I want you to evacuate Moonbase Alpha as soon as possible.
Evacuate?
I want you to...
moment of triumph?
Phased relays.
He's selling out.
Can't be. We heard him. No, Mentor has done something to him.
Just like that? No study, no research? Just pack up and go down?
Well, you don't have that much time. You'll be drifting past it, won't you?
Well, it is unusual procedure.
Directive 4.
Uh-oh. And instantly Tony knows what that is.
Situation like this. You will do as ordered.
The evacuation procedure is all laid down. Signal when you're ready to land the first wave.
Out.
So Tony is like, oh no. And Koenig is very, defeated and dejected too. But that's it. His cooperation is enough to release the other Alphans from their chairs. Mentor has said that those three can live in exchange for the other 290 odd.
Commander!
But Alan, he's not happy about that. Alan's out for the count. Helena has to check he's still alive because she's the doctor.
Helena, it was the only way out.
You should be grateful. You owe him your lives.
And I can even ask the guy wearing the nappy to leave the room if it'll make you more comfortable.
John, what about the people on Alpha?
What about them, Commander?
Now look, you can...
It's a fairly redundant line from Fraser, but it's nice that they've given John Hug sort of equivalent close-ups and screen time to the other main characters in this episode. And speaking of, I suppose we should talk about the fact that this episode does introduce Maya and Tony and Fraser. I've always wondered with Fraser, was he meant to be a new character, or was it just that he happens to survive this episode and they kind of needed someone occasionally to fill in here and there, and they decided to keep bringing him back? If I ever, I did meet John Hug about 10 years ago. I should have asked him, was it sold to him as a recurring role, or was it just a one-off that became something more?
And to destroy the place it originated from.
Destroy the planet? But they are still down there.
And this is some lovely stuff, both from Tony Anholt and Xenia Merton.
And you will carry it out?
And I kind of feel for Xenia Merton in this episode because...
Return to your position.
Landau and Bain and Nick Tate, they were together in the first season, and most of their scenes they are together, or they're with Brian Blessed, who was also in the first season. Whereas Xenia Merton is surrounded by, for the most part, people she had no experience of. Most of the extras are new. Tony Anholt's new. These are all people that I'm presuming she had never worked with before. And yet somehow she makes it work. She makes it feel like this is still Alpha. I don't know what they would have done if they'd done what they wanted to do, which was get rid of all of the characters.
Got the worn Alpha.
I think even at one point, Koenig and Helena were not guaranteed to be in the second series, and to a certain extent, well, no, definitely, Alan Carter was up for the chop as well, and it was only the fact that Nick Tate was the actor who got the most fan mail
Trapped in here.
that got them to keep him on. And I'm sure that Xenia Merton and Anton Phillips are just there because we need the bare minimum familiar faces. So as different as this second season is, it could have been even more different.
Destructive power.
When that eagle hits Cyclone, there will be nothing left of the planet.
And I'm sure that a lot of the reason that it doesn't look more different than it does is a limited budget. I'm sure if they had the money to redo the eagles, the travel tubes,
We countermand it.
the look of the base, they probably would have.
John Koenig wouldn't give that order unless this base and all the people on it face destruction.
Yes, Directive 4 is blow up the place where the order is coming from.
What eagle?
Which Tony is now doing with a robot eagle full of explosives. Oh. And he's having a hissy fit. Oh dear. I also wonder with that Directive 4, what event led to that that command being created? Because obviously it would have to be something that was introduced after they left orbit.
10 minutes, it'll be all over.
I doubt there was ever a Directive 4, programmed into Alpha's original mission. I mean, maybe there was. Maybe before they left orbit, there was a chance they might have to radio Earth and say, nuke the moon. But I doubt it. And there's that shot of the moon again that looks like possibly a shot of the actual real moon. As the robot eagle approaches.
Commander, one of your transport eagles is on its way. Again, I want to assure you that you and your friends will not be harmed.
And I'd like to sell you some magic beans and ask you to look out the window and observe the flying pigs. Yes, Koenig is stuck in his cell, and Helena, Bill, and particularly Alan are all giving him the glares. Meanwhile, back on Alpha, 5 minutes to go. Everyone's doing a nice selection of sort of, oh no, why is this happening? That's from Tony, and then there's just this sort of look of resignation as Annie walks back in to watch the world with the man she loves on it blow up.
Scan that eagle.
And then he's getting a bit suspicious.
No life forms.
They had an alarm programmed for no life forms.
The robot device programmed to destroy Cyclone.
I somehow deduced all of this from the flashing white light. For I am Brian Blessed.
Disgusting that the commander should descend to such deception.
Don't confront him yet, my dear. Let him think that he has deceived us.
It'd be more funny that way.
Tolerance.
But these two are very believable as father and daughter. Oh, there we go. Oh, more brilliant cape flourishes from Brian Blessed.
Did you think that your childish trick would go undetected?
We live in hope.
But it's a lovely moment here when the others realise what he's done.
You're a self-sacrificing fool!
I'm sorry I had to put you through a ringer, but I just couldn't take the chance of telling you.
First!
Especially Nick Tate. He's like, of course, he's Koenig. He would never betray me. Which ties in rather neatly to the last time we had Space 1999 on the Randomiser, which was Seed of Destruction, I think.
With a liar? You disgust me. We welcome you as friends and you plot to kill us.
What do you expect us to do? Stand by while Mentor destroys us?
My father is an honourable man.
It's interesting that she kind of walks in on the tail end of Mentor's conversation, just as his hologram disappears there. But she doesn't arrive in time to hear Mentor say, I will destroy the moon and kill you all. She still believes in him.
That machine destroys people's minds!
Which is... It just makes all of this so heartbreaking.
Go down to the caves and see for yourself.
Nobody's allowed down there. They're radioactive.
Who says so, Mentor? Maya, we've been there. Go and see what we've seen. Mindless hulks, destroyed by your father.
That's not true.
Go and see, and then come back here and let us out so we can stop them.
And this wonderful range of expressions and emotions that Maya is going through here. She doesn't want to believe it, but there's something in the back of her mind that's saying, actually, there could be something in this. I should check. I don't know why she doesn't question the nappy-wearing guards. They're clearly not native to Psychon. They're also clearly, to all intents and purposes, zombies. But this is a lovely sequence as well of this poor woman just exploring this part of the world of Psychon that she's never visited. And I love that wonderful transition from her humanoid form into the dove. And sometimes I think that works better than the whole zoom in on the eye thing. To have what Catherine did there of she threw her arms back as if she was sort of about to sprout wings and take flight. And now we have this another fine actor, this little dove, or it could be a pigeon, watching all of these alien zombies in the caves. And finally she transforms back into her humanoid self, and she cannot get out of there fast enough. Yeah, that dove has. I think it gives the Moonraker double-taking pigeon a run for its money there. Oh, Mentor's blown up the eagle with explosives on.
Weapon section? Our eagle was intercepted. We might be in for an attack. Activate defense shields. Yes, sir.
Another thing, Petrov seems happy about the prospect of being attacked.
Commander.
Yes, Petrov, played by Peter Portuous, husband of Emma Portuous. He had also been in a Protectors episode, I want to say Baubles, Bangles and Beads.
The one who caused it!
And he was in various films you'd probably know, like
Got to make a deal with him.
Octopussy and Life Force.
Unless we get out of here, we've got to break that force.
But I've always wondered, with his wife being the costume designer on this show, did they sort of come as a package deal? Was it you had to hire one and get the other as well? Is that why Petrov was created? Because he's kind of a nothing character.
What's happening?
They're coming right through our defense shield.
Oh, what was it?
An energy bolt of enormous power.
Launch Eagles for a full attack.
I will, but I don't think anything is going to help.
And he seems to be given roles in this episode that don't really require a guy in a cupboard to be doing them. Like, why are we getting Petrov, of all people, to launch the Eagles? They always launch the Eagles from Command Center. And he appeared in 2 other episodes. He was in Exiles, the corridor exploded on him. And then he briefly radios in Space Warp to say that he's been attacked by the monster. Anywho.
Alan, get to the Eagle. Prepare for liftoff. Helena, you and Fraser, get Torrance. Let's go.
Yep, Myers let him out of the cell. Everybody's got their assignments, and as the Eagles leave Alpha to attack Psychon... Oh, that one's destroyed over what looks like a broken launch pad.
Maya! What are you doing?
Okay, he grabs a big stick.
Commander!
And smashes up all of the bubble juice. And this looks like one of these scenes where they would have to have got it right on the first take, because I imagine replacing all of these containers with the bubble juice would have been a long job.
Maya, you must stop him!
I was in the pits!
And it does look quite dangerous as well. Koenig is having great fun smashing his wooden club into everything. But yeah, there's a lot of fire about the place. It's one of the things I do like about the second season is they throw a lot of fire at the actors all the way through the second season. And it looks really dangerous, and I suspect to a certain extent it probably was really dangerous. Yeah, there's tons here around Barbara Bain and John Hugg as they fight their way to Torrens, who, alas, has met his end. He was crushed under a rockfall, along with, conveniently, all the other aliens, which, of course, means they don't have to take him back to Alpha and deal with a vegetable for the rest of the series.
He said he wouldn't be harmed!
Mentor, come out!
Yeah, you can actually see the fire-generating rig on the floor there. But it doesn't detract from the scene.
Leave, Psyche! Psyche made you do evil!
No!
Great music as well in the background here.
I wanted to do!
And just Maya's increasing desperation to get to her father until she realises, oh yeah, I can turn into things.
Hold on, Tony! Hold on to her!
And yet, to his credit, Martin Landau hasn't asked the stuntman to wrestle with this eagle, this hawk, or whatever it is.
Get away, Tony!
Or even this dog.
You can't help him. We've got to get out of here, Maya.
And Yes, there she turns into a gorilla, or a man in a gorilla costume. And there's a moment coming up here of Catherine Shell makes a head movement, a strange head movement once she turns back into Maya. And there's this background sound effect. Here it comes. I always thought when I watched this as a kid that she was growling. It's just the way she moves her head there and the background sound effect. I thought there was some kind of animal response to her father's death. Very odd. It's obviously a sound effect just timed at just the right moment. But, yeah. So everyone's made it back to the Eagle, except for Koenig and Maya, running through all the fire, all of the explosions. This is some more lovely effect stuff.
Hurry, come on, hurry! Come on! Go, get moving, Fraser!
Now we have both our pilots up front. This is a very dramatic takeoff. Are they going to make it? Well, that poor Eagle model is just being blasted and buffeted. I would have to believe that after certain effect shots on this show, the model painters would have had to spend at least a day restoring some of these battered, burnt, singed vehicles, presumably with bits of them melted. But this is a great finale of so many exploding volcanoes, and then kaboom! Psychon is gone. And yeah, this is the scene that I think, if this had been in Series 1, yeah, there's Annette Fraser, she's happy. Eagle survived. Of course her husband must have survived. I'm sure if this was Series 1, Bill Fraser would have died and Ray Torrens would have lived, and they would have had that sort of sad moment of...
Eagle fall from Alpha.
Poor Annette, she's so sad, much like they did with the Zorefs in Force of Life.
Fraser?
But this is Series 2. We can't do that. Got your wife. Blowing her a kiss. Aww. And then that's it. She's never seen again.
We'll soon be back on Alpha. In time you'll forget.
It's just hard to stop thinking about Picard and Torrens.
Who? Oh yeah, them. Well, we've got this new lady here. She can do both their jobs, and we don't have to pay her. Something else Catherine Shell is absolutely brilliant at is just utterly heartbroken acting. More lovely music as well with this We're All Aliens. It's a lovely...
Your science is so far ahead of ours. There's a place for you on Alpha.
If it wasn't, you'd be walking home, lady. Yes, I don't think that's quite the best way to phrase it. You know, you can come and work for us.
Till we get to know one another.
But it is a nice way to end the first episode of this new revamped Space 1999 with a heroic shot of Koenig and a soft focus shot of Helena. And yeah, they're going to accept Maya. She'll be alright. And there we go. That was the first episode of Space 1999 Series 2, The Metamorph. And I think, you know, putting aside the fact of all these changes and just judging it solely on its merits as a Space 1999 episode, it is one of my favourites. And I think that's totally due to the fact that we have such strong performances in Catherine Shell and Brian Blessed. But it's just all-round good stuff. If the show had carried on in this vein for a bit longer, we might have had a second season that was possibly a bit more fondly remembered.
Chris, we're back next week with more randomisery goodness that's always random. Yeah, I know, it's quite a shock, isn't it? After all this time, it's very hard to predict that the randomiser itself is not random in the nature in which it appears. It's very predictable. It's always the randomiser at the end of the show every week.
It trips me up every time.
It's just the content that's random,
so actually,
you see?
What should happen is he should just turn up randomly, shouldn't he?
Oh, yes.
That would make it perfect.
Okay, right. We'll take this offline and have a discussion and see what we can do. Anyway, look,
great. Maybe I could present a PowerPoint presentation.
I think we're probably done with PowerPoints.
But Elaine's still here.
No, it's fine. Elaine's got to go do something else. I feel like, actually, we've maybe outstayed our welcome.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap things up and go away?
No, let's wrap things up and go away.
Okay, so Elaine, if you could bring up the slide pack on wrapping things up and going away.
Okay. So I bullet pointed the main items you can see here off the agenda, Jamie, for wrapping the podcast up.
Last one's quite rude.
Well, I just thought I'd put that in. That's a personal message to you. You don't read that out.
Yeah, okay. I'm definitely not reading that out. So, what do we say? Subscribe, rate and review. We'd love a review from you. Please do get in touch with us by emailing, referring to the previous slide deck, podcast@GerryAnderson.com. Please rewind the podcast.
Okay.
We'll present a deck on rewinding the podcast next week.
Yeah.
In case you don't know how to do that.
Sure, I can do that.
And we'll be back next week with this one plus one. So that's 255.
That's right. That's the next slide, Elaine. If you want to just next slide, there we are. Pod. That's the next pod.
255. Oh, there's even ruder message on that one. Okay. So on that note,
I think that's from Elaine.
Yeah. Thanks, Elaine. Nice to meet you too. We'll go away and wish you a fantastic week, and we'll see you in Pod 255. Podsterons.
See you then.
Goodbye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Yeah, that last bullet point was really quite...
Well, actually, Elaine, before you go, just put this on this slide. You can see I made a spider chart.
Yes.
Can you
Interesting.
see that? Of everything sort of podcast related.
Yeah.
And you can see swear words and rude stuff. It's quite a large part of that slide,
yes,
isn't it?
but they normally get cut out.
As they do normally, yes.
You didn't have to write them in.
Well, I just thought that's an accurate representation of the podcast as we know. So you've got around here, you can see the randomizer, there it is, and Podsteron's input. Yeah. But then we've got, can you see this here? Bants. That's the largest part of the spider diagram.
Excellent, yeah, yes.
That's what people come here for.
That's what the kids are calling it these days, is it? Yeah. Anyway.
There you go. Okay, we'll shut it off now, Elaine. Thanks very much.
She's tapping her watch now. So
I know. It's overtime, isn't it? Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Who does she invoice, by the way?
Chris.
Chris
Dale.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, Chris Dale.
Send it to Chris Dale, the Randomizer, at the Randomizer.
Lovely.
Bye, Elaine.
Cheers, Elaine. Bye.
Right.
Let's see the back of her.
Ooh, bit rude. Right. See you next week. Is that what we do now?
Yeah, she's still listening through the door. Sorry, Elaine, not you. Yeah, bye. Okay, yeah, see you next week, Jamie. Oh, God, I'm in trouble now. Listen, no, sorry, Elaine, I wasn't talking about you. I meant someone else. No, you were perfect. Yeah, no, we let the side down.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.